Was Myles Turner disrespectful in the way he handled negotiations with the Indiana Pacers? Some new info on one of the most shocking moves of the summer when Turner left Indiana and headed to the rival Milwaukee Bucks. But first, an update on Jonas Valanciunas and how this is going to matter for Al Horford. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're pushing for 30,000 subscribers. We're almost there. Hit that subscribe button and put us over the top. All right, let's get into this first with Jonas Valanciunas. This is what Jonas said at the basketball summit in Lithuania. Said, you can say anything. A lot has already been said, all kinds of thoughts. The bubble burst. Everyone shared what everyone thinks. We'll only find out when the first game is played. Everything will be cleared. Jonas is on the verge of being traded from the Sacramento Kings to the Denver Nuggets, but now there have been reports that Jonas wants to play in Greece. He doesn't want to stay in the NBA. He would have to negotiate some type of a deal with the Denver Nuggets, perhaps give back his salary, and then wind up getting clearance to go sign over in Greece. But the Denver Nuggets reportedly want Jonas. They say, we want you to be a backup to our guy, Nikola Jokic. We want to have that kind of a 1-2 punch at the center position. And I don't blame him. I think Jonas would be a phenomenal backup to Jokic. But Jonas here saying like, well, I guess we'll find out when the first game's played, whether or not I'm a Denver Nugget. Like that doesn't sound very committal or very excited here about joining Denver. He said when the trade is finalized, we'll come up with a plan. The Nuggets will express their wishes, how they think, how they see it, medical, other details. That will depend on the team. Yeah, again, he sounds absolutely thrilled to be a Denver Nugget. By the way, it doesn't really matter so much what Jonas wants. Now, the Denver Nuggets may ultimately say, we don't want a player who doesn't want to be here. Give us back the salary and you can go. They could go down that path, but Valanciunas is a great fit behind Jokic. Denver could very easily just say, no, sorry, you're under contract with our team and you need to play for us. And that's it, period. And if that's what Denver decides, there's nothing Valanciunas can do about it. He cannot sign with any other team without getting a letter of clearance from FIBA, which he will not get while he's still under contract with the Denver Nuggets. So Valanciunas, if he wants to leave the NBA, needs the help of the Denver Nuggets, and Denver is within their rights to say, nope, sorry, you're under contract with us. We expect you to play for our team. Now, should Jonas give back his salary and go play in Greece, that could open up the Denver Nuggets to sign Al Horford to a full mid-level exception, which they would then have access to. However, as of right now, it's still expected that Al Horford will join the Golden State Warriors. That decision has not been made final at this point, but right now that does appear to be the most likely outcome here. Though I do wonder, depending on how this Valanciunas situation plays out, if that could change Horford's mind and send him to Denver instead. Brad Stevens with the Celtics did say today that it's unlikely that Horford will return to Boston. All right, let's jump over to the Myles Turner situation, though. This is Kevin Pritchard, president of basketball operations of the Pacers, with some really interesting comments here about what really happened that led to Myles Turner's departure from Pawnee. Check this out.
I don't want to get into the specifics of Myles because the truth is he gave 10 great years here. I loved having him be here. I hope I'm friends with him for a long time. I know this, that Herb Simon and Stephen Rails and the Simon family were fully prepared to go deep into the tax to keep him. And we
Okay, so that was a big question about the Pacers, was after Tyrese Halliburton unfortunately tore his Achilles, there were questions about whether or not the Pacers, who were reportedly willing to go into the tax before the Achilles tear in Game 7, whether or not that was still going to be the case. Historically, the Pacers have not been a team that's wanted to go into the tax, and so that created the Halliburton Achilles tear, created all sorts of new questions about whether or not they would still follow through with that. Right now, as they currently sit, with Myles Turner off their books, the Pacers are not a tax team. Now, Kevin Pritchard here saying, oh, no, we would go into the tax in order to bring back Myles Turner. Bringing him back would almost certainly put them into the tax, although last season at the trade deadline, there were rumors that they were exploring trades with players like Obi Toppin and maybe Benedict Mathurin to shed those salaries and see if that would help them drop below the tax. But right now, Pritchard's saying, which easy to say now that you don't actually have to do it, but saying, hey, we were willing to spend. We were going to spend the money, and then he took off. But check out this. I think this is important here.
He really wanted to do that. And we were negotiating in good faith. But what happens in this league is sometimes you're negotiating, but because a guy is unrestricted, he has the right to say, that's the offer I want. I'm going to take it, and that's best for my family. And again, we were in good faith negotiations. It was a little surprising that, how Milwaukee created that. I don't know if, we always say in our conference room, there's cap teams that have cap space, and there's shadow teams that have cap space. You can go get, but it becomes very challenging by buying out or making trades, and hat tip to Milwaukee to do that. So I think the most important thing is we were deep in conversations with Myles, and then we saw that he'd accepted an offer with Milwaukee. And again, that's part of this business that is challenging. I can tell you this also, that there are two kind of things that I believe that is kind of fundamental to the league right now, and that is change is inevitable and expect the unexpected. And I can't tell you that, we were fully expected for that.
Okay. Change is inevitable and expect the unexpected. Read between the lines here. Read between the lines on what he's talking about here with the Indiana Pacers about what happened. They were in negotiations with Myles Turner. They didn't think the Bucks were going to have cap space. They did not expect that the Bucks would have cap space. They didn't expect that the Bucks would buy out Damian Lillard, waive and stretch his salary to suddenly create the flexibility to go sign Myles Turner. And so if I'm reading between the lines, that tells me that looking around at the market, the Pacers, did they lowball Myles Turner? There's some reports that they were within about 10% or so of the Bucks offer, but nonetheless, it does kind of sound like the Pacers looked at the market, went, oh, well, you've got nowhere to go, and then were surprised that the Bucks suddenly had cap space and he was gone. Again, if you look at the market dynamics, it makes sense why they might try to squeeze Myles Turner a little bit. Nobody had cap space. There was nowhere for him to go, but it backfired on them when suddenly, in a very unexpected way, the Bucks created cap space, and then they got the tweet from Shams Charania saying that Myles Turner was gone. And that is the only part of this that I don't like. See, if Myles Turner is negotiating with the Pacers, and the Pacers, maybe rightfully, are using the current situation in the market against Turner to perhaps, whether or not we want to call it lowballing him or whatever, we can use whatever term we want. But if they're using the situation in the market where there's not a lot of other teams for him to go to against him in the negotiation to try to get the best deal they possibly can, they also can't fault him when suddenly a new door opens, gives him a better contract, and he says, okay, well, you know what? You guys played hardball with me. I'm going to go take this other offer then, and I'm going to go over here. And as Pritchard said, he doesn't fault Myles Turner. He has the right. He has the ability to do that. And that's the risk that you take in free agency if you are trying to squeeze a player somewhat, if you're trying to lowball them a little bit and try to get the best deal for your club. Sometimes that does open up the possibility that the player can wind up taking another offer, and other teams can be very creative in making moves. So teams that you are not keeping an eye on, teams that you are not expecting to be an option for a player like Myles Turner, suddenly become one. And that's exactly what we saw with the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll tell you the only thing I don't like about this in terms of, did Myles Turner actually disrespect the Pacers in this? I think he owed them a phone call. And I don't know exactly how this all played out. Perhaps word got out before Turner intended it to, before the Bucks intended it to. You know the way this game is. People who are breaking news do not sit on that information. They want to be the first ones to put it out there. But Myles Turner should have called the Pacers and let them know that he was leaving. He spent 10 years there. They should not have found out about it the same way we all did on X via a post from Shams Charania. The Pacers deserved a phone call from Myles Turner saying, hey, this is the decision I've made. Thank you for all the years that we've been together, all these sorts of things. I know this is the business. This is the way things play out. And leaving and going to the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't fault Myles Turner for that. However, Myles, pick up the phone, give the Pacers a call, and do it the right way. Everybody give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about the Jonas Valanciunas situation with the Denver Nuggets? Certainly doesn't sound like he wants to be a Nugget. Does this then ultimately lead us to Al Horford joining the Nuggets, or does Horford wind up with Golden State as we've been expecting all along? Should the Nuggets play hardball with Jonas and tell him, nope, sorry, you're under contract with our team and you're going to be staying with us? Or should they let him go, play for a team in Greece? And then the Myles Turner situation. Did the Pacers try to get too cute with this and ultimately cause Turner to go to the Milwaukee Bucks? And did Turner handle this inappropriately as well? Give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.